So certainly, so the City of Fremantle's had a big focus on attracting more people in. We're pretty lucky in the sense of we being a commercial centre, our budget is quite healthy. Our budget's almost $100 million a year in terms of looking after Fremantle. But we certainly are focusing a large portion of that on rebuilding the city centre and attracting new retail and new office and new people back into Fremantle.
So I mentioned the retail and the commercial, but there's a whole economy run around the maritime port industry and the fishing industry. There's a whole nighttime economy because it's an entertainment district as well. And all of that's serviced by pretty good transport links as well. So there's really good bus and train public transport systems into Fremantle. We heavily subsidise a cat bus system that runs around and just allows people to travel freely through Fremantle.
Look, I think it's going quite well. It's a very tough time anywhere, not just in Fremantle, but anywhere in Western Australia at the moment to get construction projects off the ground. The residential sector probably has highs and lows across metropolitan Perth, but there's a number of apartment buildings at the moment that are under construction or about to commence construction, so that's a very good sign. I think Fremantle is a unique place to live, so there's always going to be people who will want to live here.
Fremantle's $1.3 billion development pipeline is great for the city, but it does raise some challenges and needs to be managed effectively to maximise benefits in a sustainable way.
Yeah, look, the sale of the port's an interesting one. I think if it's handled properly by the government, it won't impact the economy at all. Whether it's the government operating the port or a private operator running the port doesn't make a lot of difference, but it will if some of those things the government does running the port that the private operator won't do or won't be forced to do. And that is really just things like engaging the community. What I'd hate to see is a private operator come in and say, oh, I'm going to play the safety first rule and I'm going to block the port off to the public, and it would dislocate the city from probably one of its biggest emotional assets is the ships coming in and out of the harbour every day.
The Chamber is the oldest chamber of commerce in Western Australia and the second oldest chamber in Australia. The Chamber has been promoting prosperity in Fremantle for over 138 years. The Chamber's future lies in harnessing the innovation and energy of the business community as a dynamic force for positive growth and development in Fremantle.
Well, it actually started about 140 years ago, so it was the first chamber of business in Western Australia, and the business centre was here in Fremantle. That's where the boats came to, that's where the people got off the boat. About 40 years after that, a group of members moved up the river to the city and they formed their own chamber, and the remainder stayed in Fremantle. So the Fremantle Chamber of Commerce as we know it today with this label, I guess the organisation's been around for 140 years, but we've been in our own building for 102 years. We've been part of the foundation of Fremantle and the business community in Fremantle for a very long time.
Fremantle is a port city founded on commerce and trade. Fremantle has battled high vacancy rates and poor levels of foot traffic in past years following years of underinvestment in the town centre, which has buildings dating back to the 1850s. But sustainable investment from a number of local retail landowners as well as investment heavyweights is slowly drawing more retail interest back to the port. The city has experienced an economic downturn in recent years, with the retail sector particularly hard hit. The retail sector in Fremantle over the last few years hasn't performed well. That came especially after the closure of Myer in 2013.
Business in Fremantle at the moment is it's pretty bad. We don't have the people coming through. We don't have the tourism coming through like it used to. And Fremantle is dying in a way where, even with the tourism coming through saying that this is one of the worst ports that they've pulled into off the boats and other tourists that are coming through.
I think one of the big challenges for Fremantle is around rebuilding its retail. There's no doubt that I think main streets globally have really struggled to compete with big box shopping centres, with your garden cities of the world. and we need to really reconfigure how we do our retail to attract people back into Fremantle. I think there is a real rediscovery of main streets, of old centres, and that they can offer a different kind of retail, one that's not just the things that you can see everywhere in the world, but actually are about locally made goods, unique products, what often people call the bespoke, and where it actually feels much more authentic. So I hope that's where, I think, as we rebuild our retail, that we have that focus on those kinds of things and get those kind of outcomes.
But I think it's beginning to get a little bit better. I mean, the last couple of years have been pretty tough. I mean, economic crisis and all that. A lot of people sort of haven't been shopping quite as much. But it's beginning to, there's a bit of a feel that some of it's coming back. But, you think that one day and then the next day it goes dead quiet.
Maybe the council's not putting in enough to look after the Fremantle how it should be. We need more parking in here, better free parking so that people will come in and shop.
It's not as busy, but it's like that everywhere. It's common in every area. Retail's just not as busy as what it was. It's a little bit, the antisocial behaviour's a lot higher, but the city went through that not that long ago as well, and that's picked up, especially on William Street, and it's just something that happens. It comes and goes. It is what it is. It'll pick up again.
I'd say, it's changed a lot. I mean, like there were a lot more Italians coming shopping in Fremantle in the past. Then after 10 years, I had to move in the city because there was just not enough business in Fremantle for my type of boutique, because I did more bridal made to measure and I had beautiful fabrics. So, and then even Perth was hard because the rents were astronomical.
This is a bit of a decline because of the lack of selection, and unfortunately a lot of places have closed down, and because I've heard because of the rents, I don't think it's even the rents so much. I think it's just there's not enough people coming through. So,
but we've also not competed well with other forms of retail, so the major malls and the such like. So that has drawn people away from our centre, and for a long time, the larger retailers did not invest in their stores here. So as a consequence, Maya eventually moved on, and even with its doors open, it wasn't the world's greatest shop, but it still kept people coming into Fremantle. And that, when it closed, it dramatically changed the number of people coming into the centre to do their shopping. So that closure was really important, but the downgrade of the retail zone had been going on for 20 years. And that's because Fremantle had restricted its own development.
Very little support from the council. There are a couple of little groups aiding businesses within Fremantle, but there's very little you can do to start off with if the people aren't coming into Fremantle.
the place needs to be cleaned up a little more. We need to have a bit of an improvement with the way the shop fronts are looking. I'm not sure. It's really, really hard for the government, I suppose, to sort of, help when there's not enough stores. The parking definitely has to be upgraded. Something has to be done there. Maybe free parking needs to be brought in a bit more. I know that Fremantle City, the City of Fremantle has been trying to do a lot with festivals and stuff like that, but that brings in people on the weekends only. It doesn't really do much during the week trading, and it's more your food, not your retail.
What's happened though is that there's just been competition across the broader Perth metropolitan area. So Fremantle used to benefit from being just one of the few places where you could shop on a Sunday. Now you can shop across Perth. It used to be one of the great places for restaurants and coffee, and now you can get that all across Perth. So what Fremantle needs to do is keep its very unique characteristics and build on those so that people want to come back to Fremantle as a destination. You certainly need more people living downtown. You need to have the tourists coming, but what you really need is to have more people from across Perth coming back to Fremantle in the ways that they used to be here back in the 80s. You need them back in big numbers again.
Fremantle is a proud city, steeped in a rich history. It's Perth's second city, and as a region grows to more than 3 million people, Fremantle requires a clear, long-term and shared vision to make it distinctive, sustainable and vibrant place for current and future generations. That's all for Perth City Talk. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.